Lawmakers begin scrutiny of the details of President Bola Tinubu's budget and the appropriation bill presented before it yesterday. There seems to be some truths in Ondo State governance and politics as the Deputy Governor, Mr. Lucky Aiyedatiwa, chaired a state council meeting in the absence of Governor Akeredolu, and the House of Assembly has withdrawn its case against the Deputy Governor to the court. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimaloe in Abuja. We shall be dishing you with some very interesting conversation about some of your major political stories in the land and the scrutiny of the president's budget, which is started in both chambers of the National Assembly. One thing that President Tinubu was begging them for is that they should expedite action in the passage of the appropriation bill, which he presented yesterday before jetting out to the United Arab Emirates. So we'll be dissecting that for you. But what is happening in the APC does look like there's some undercurrent in that party. For example, in Ondo State, the undercurrent between the governor, Rotimi Akeredolu, who is now physically entered into the state since he returned into the country after a medical trip, and his deputy, Mr. Lucky Aiyedatiwa. It appears the intervention of President Tinubu doused things as Mr. Aiyedatiwa looks to have taken charge from today as he chaired the State Council meeting. We'll be dissecting for you and the interpretation, implication, and effect of what that means for the governance of Ondo State. Stick around with me, everyone. But first, let's serve you with some of your political roundup stories.
The Ondo State Governor, Gordon Obaseki, is blaming the crisis rocking the ruling People's Democratic Party in the state on external forces. Governor Obaseki is warning that destroying the PDP amounts to destroying democracy in Nigeria. According to him, the PDP is largely responsible for the present-day democracy. He was speaking during a stakeholders meeting at the State Party Secretariat in Benin City, the Ondo State capital.
PDP is the basis of democracy in Nigeria. So anybody who does anything hurtful to make sure that they weaken PDP to the extent of destroying PDP is not helping Nigeria and is not helping democracy in Nigeria.
And in Ondo State, the Deputy Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa today presided over the State Executive Council meeting in Akure, the state capital. This follows his return to the state after the president intervened to resolve the political crisis that has rocked the state, resulting from the absence of the governor, Rotimi Akeredolu, from the state due to ill health. The parties in the dispute agreed to embrace peace and that there will be no dissolution of the state cabinet, while the deputy governor will maintain the status quo regarding the leadership of the State House of Assembly. Meanwhile, the Ondo State House of Assembly and the Speaker have withdrawn its appeal filed before the Court of Appeal in Abuja against the ruling of the Federal High Court, Abuja, which stopped the planned impeachment of the Ondo State Deputy Governor, Mr. Lucky Aiyedatiwa. The Ondo State House of Assembly and its Speaker had challenged the jurisdiction of the Federal High Court, Abuja, to handle the matter and appealed against the court's ruling halting the planned impeachment of the Deputy Governor. At the day's proceedings, counsel to the Speaker and the Assembly, Dr. Remi Olatubura, told the three-member panel of justices of the Appellate Court that he has instructions of his client to withdraw the appeal. The senior lawyer told the court that parties in the matter have found a political solution to their problems and have signed an agreement to withdraw the appeal. The candidate of the Labour Party in the November 11, 2023 governorship election, Mr. Ethan Achonu, is accusing the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, of frustrating the attempt of the party's legal team to inspect the beavers machines used for the election. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, Mr. Achonu says the election that produced the governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodinma, was marred by electoral malpractices, which the party is prepared to prove at the tribunal. He adds that INEC is deliberately placing obstacles on the path of the Labour Party in order to prevent them from pursuing their case before the Imo State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal. A group known as the Hope Community Vanguard is asking residents of the state to support the administration of Governor Hope Uzodinma to develop the state. The group made the call during a solidarity rally to the headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Commission in Abuja. The leader of the group, Mr. Frank Omere, wants other party candidates during the last election to sheath their swords and offer their valuable advice on the best way to move the state forward. The Ondo State Governor, Dapo Abiodun, has presented a 703 billion naira budget before the State House of Assembly for the year 2024 fiscal year, tagged Budget of Sustained Growth and Development. The governor says capital expenditure is expected to go up 416 billion naira, while recurrent expenditure attracts 287 billion naira, with emphasis on the completion of all ongoing projects, security, critical roads, infrastructure development, human capital development, education, among other specifics.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Let's take you to the United Arab Emirates and see what is happening. Since yesterday, the President Bola Tinubu went to the COP28 climate summit in Dubai. President Bola Tinubu today met with the King, His Majesty King Charles III today on the sidelines of the COP28 climate summit in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates. Pictures of the president's surface, and because of videos have soon emerged of the engagement between the monarch and Nigeria's president. We said that the president had a productive meeting with the Majesty King Charles of England, who is also the head of the Commonwealth and a passionate advocate of climate change. Let's tell you that there seems to be some scrutiny going on in both chambers of the National Assembly on the budget presented to the National Assembly yesterday by President Bola Tinubu. The House and the Senate are now looking into the details to look at what the president has asked for. The passage of the Appropriation Bill 2024, the president had yesterday in his presentation pleaded that the National Assembly should expedite action and pass the bill so that it will take effect from the first day of January 2024. Let's get some insight on what the budget is, the details of it. It will be emerging now that the National Assembly and the lawmakers are now looking into the nitty-gritty. But let's get a sense, because those who helped the president to prepare the budget will be giving us some insight tonight. I'm being joined on the program tonight by the Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly matter for the House of Representatives, a former member of the House of Representatives on the 9th Assembly, Honorable Ibrahim Kunle-Raju, who joins us virtually from Ado Ekiti, the Ekiti State capital. Thank you so much, Honorable, for joining us tonight on the program.
Thank you.
We understand from the presentation of the president, but I understand that you have a hand in the preparation of the budget. You know how these all came about. So one would be wondering, the total expenditure that is being proposed by the president, what prompted that? Because you look at the comparison with other countries of the world, our budget in terms of, especially when if you stay in Africa compared to Egypt, South Africa, Kenya, Rwanda, you look at the total expenditure in dollar terms is smaller, although you look at it, that it's about a trillion higher than what we had in 2023, but then it's still lesser compared. But what informed the total expenditure figure that was presented by the president?
Thank you, Sean, for having me. You know, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has a history. He has an antecedent of revamping economy, developing manpower, and of course, involving in social security to the benefit of the people. And so this is the focus of Mr. President in preparing this budget. Why I agree with you that our budget may be smaller in terms of dollar value of the budget compared to other country. But you equally agree with me when you compare this budget with the previous budget of Nigeria, that is a fairly ambitious budget. And so, because the president wants to focus on revamping our economy, creating more jobs, putting insecurity in checks, and of course, reducing poverty problem in Nigeria, this seems to be the main focus why this budget is prepared this way. Of course, the economic team of the president realized that the only way to take Nigeria out of the drum, particularly the insecurity, is to develop manpower. When you develop manpower, you know, it's the common knowledge that devil's workshop is lazy hands, people who don't have work to do. So if our manpower is developed, people will have meaningful things to do. They will have money in their pocket, and so they'll be dissuaded from committing crimes. And this is the reason behind this particular budget.
No, so you look at it, and those who will say, look, forget those figures, the 27 billion, the 9 trillion, the 8 trillion debt servicing. Forget all of those figures. What the president promised Nigerians is to alleviate the poverty, is to fix infrastructure, is to make their lives better. The question is this budget going to deal with it?
Sure. I am very convinced that this budget will deal with it. You see, we have a problem in our hand, and we don't have to run away from it. And the president is not running away from it. We have a huge debt, debt profile. We have insecurity, and we have a lot of our youth that doesn't have something to do. And so we must start from somewhere. We can't be reading out figures that is not realizable. We must be able to match our revenue with our spending. And you know, even in this budget, we still have borrowing components to be able to implement the budget. However, we must be very careful in ensuring that, unlike other budgets, that we must put in the budget what is realizable, what we can implement, what we know we can do. We don't have to necessarily compare ourselves with other countries because they have very good budget and begin to roll out because unachievable figures. We must be very practical. And this is what this budget tries to ensure. Very practical, very focused on the achievables.
So, I mean, you look at the cost of the basics in Nigeria. You look at the cost of bread, the price of garri, the price of rice, which are astronomical now compared to what they were 1-2 years ago. Look at what the president met on the ground, and as soon as the president got on the ground, in fact, look at the dollar and the rates to the naira. It's crazy right now. And people will be asking, why should we bother about 27 trillion naira? That's not our problem. If the president can ensure that the price of bread crashes, the price of garri crashes, they buy petrol at a lesser rate, their lives are better, they have more money in their pocket. These are the assurances Nigerians need, not the prices. In fact, a lot of people don't even care what the figures and these indices are. What they are concerned about is the promise the president made to Nigeria. He said there is renewed hope. He said he's going to take poverty. He said they voted him and he's going to get the job done. The assurances they're asking for today is within 3 months, what will change? 6 months, what will change? What can you tell us in terms of timelines that the president is looking at?
Well, Sean, why I agree with you that things are not very rosy for average Nigerians. All of us are in the shoe, and all of us have this belief that we must change the narratives. And of course, that is why the president has focused this particular budget on solving the basic problem, particularly job creation, poverty reduction, social development. The indices are clear that we have problems in our hand. But like a good warrior, you don't run away from war, you must face it headlong. If you run, You are coming back to it tomorrow. So I can assure you, within the shortest possible time, we will begin to see the effects of this budget. Because like I said earlier on, we must be able to increase the purchasing power of average Nigerians. The dollar rate, the present situation is, there are a lot of reasons that may be adduced to the rate of a dollars to naira now. The speculators, some hoarders, and some other things. And you see, the government is fighting this headlong. You can see the investigation going on in central bank and some other underlying things that may not be known public now. But I can assure you, Sean, before the end of this budget year, Nigerians will have cause to smile. It may not be Uru yet, but we will clearly see at the end of the tunnel that there is light.
But now, one of the things that scares some Nigerians is the rate at which this country has borrowed. And that has been done on behalf of the country by past leaders. Now, we are in a doldrum. We are in a debt burden that is, in fact, pushing down our necks and pushing it so badly, we're so indebted. So the question will be, you're seeing new borrowings. And this government had laid the fears that they will not borrow, they will not do all of those things that will impoverish Nigeria, but we are seeing new borrowings. We are seeing proposal for more borrowings. How can you make sense of that to an average Nigerian who believes that our children's children will be made to pay for all of these debts?
Sean, borrowing is not a problem. What you borrow the money to do is the issue at hand, and the plan to pay back. First, this government has taken a very bold step in solving or paying back some of the indebtedness, some of the hanging debt on the neck of this country is being fastly repaid. And so we have a little bit of latitude to have some borrowing now. And there is a clear way of payment plan. If you borrow and you don't have a payment plan, that's where you run into problem. This borrowing is specifically going to fund infrastructure. And the truth about the matter is, if you don't develop infrastructure, there is no way you can develop the economy. And so the borrowing has been planned in such a way that it's not going to linger on. The payment plan has been scheduled in such a way that the idea of our children will not come into play. Yes.
Which infrastructure, Honorable? Which infrastructure? Because you know the details of the budget. What are the infrastructures that these borrowings will go for? Because we're seeing an 8.6 billion naira loan, which, and there are those experts saying that it will take our debt burden to about 51 billion naira. The president is taking about 7.1 trillion naira loan. Which are the infrastructures that the president is looking to service this loan with?
Sure. One of the core indicators of resolving our economic problem in this country is job creation. This country must develop our human capital. The most important way of growing an economy is developing human capitals. We must develop our human capital, and that is a way to make our people more self-sustaining. The truth about the matter is this: most of our borrowing to fund infrastructure were not properly placed. You put, for example, a road that that require 500 billion, for example. You borrow money and split it on several projects. We must be able, and this is what this budget tries to achieve, we must be able to identify specific projects so that the money we are borrowing will be used for those specific projects. For example, go to Ministry of Works. We have a project that has lingered for about 10, 15, 20 years. And prices keep increasing. So what this government has devised now is that we will identify, and those projects have been identified in each of the geopolitical zones. If it is 5 roads we can do in a year, we will do that and we know this one is done.
Well, Honorable, what are these projects? Can you mention these projects that have been identified in these regions?
One of the key projects is road. Nigerians are not lazy people. Most of us are businessmen. We trade. We move goods from one place to the other. The fastest means by which we move in this country is road. If that is not in place, we are in problem. Even though loan has been taken to fund these infrastructures, the scheduling of the projects didn't help the project itself. And that is why this government is refining the way we are going to schedule our payment for those infrastructures. We can't put all the infrastructure one together. We can't achieve it. Our budget cannot accept it. So what this government is doing is identify specific roads. 1, 2 in a region. Put enough money in the budget, fix that. Next year, take another one. Even though, of course, everybody in this country and Nigerians, they deserve attention of the government, but the government cannot touch everybody at once. We have tried it, we have failed. And that's
Honorable, sorry, apologies, you have quite not answered my question, because Nigerians tonight will want to know which of these roads. You said they've been selected in regions. I asked which of the infrastructure, you said road. I said, which roads in this region can you identify for us so that we can put our minds to it? Which of the roads in this region?
I may not be able to identify the specific roads, but this is what we agreed. We will identify roads. Ministry of Works has identified routes that are key, important to each of the region. 1, 2. How much is going to fund the completion of the project? Put it in the budget. It's not my duty to identify the most important road. Ministry of Works have their own role to play. This road has been identified. Even though several roads need to be attended to. But we take 1, 2, and we fund, and we go. Next year, we take another one.
So what I'm saying. Just a moment. Let me take you up quickly on this. Now, I do not know how much of urgency the president is looking at the production, which will help us generate foreign exchange if we are exporting it, because that's one major way you can earn foreign exchange. Because if you're not producing anything to sell to the rest of the world, you can't get the foreign currency to be able to run your life. Based on the fact that our lives are literally run by the state and the quality and the value of the dollar. And unfortunately, the value of our own currency is depreciating. The question is, how much of urgency is the President Tinubu putting in Nigeria producing? His friend that they ran together had the popular saying, from consumption to production. Is President Tinubu able to take Nigeria from consumption to production? How long are we going to be a consuming nation?
Sure, nobody is in doubt as to the determination of Mr. President along this line. You will see that everywhere he goes, all he asks for is come into my country, come and invest. And he has been able to secure commitment from several of these international bodies. Just like you have said earlier on, without having these hard currencies, for us to grow will be very difficult. And of course, we don't have it. So the best way, or the only option for Mr. President is to approach those who have to come and invest. Take us from good producing farms to final goods that we can export. He was in Saudi Arabia, achieved the same thing. All his moves have been geared towards inviting investors to the country, bring your hard currency, and the environment will make conducive for you to be able to make profit out of your investment. And within the shorter period of time, you will equally see the effect, because you have seen that 2 or 3, he was in China, signed MOU, same thing in Saudi Arabia.
Honorable, apologies. You are talking about FDI. I'm not talking about FDI. I'm talking about local production. FDI is...
She'll get this right. Nigerians, like I said, are not lazy. But we need foreign component to be able to produce.
But what are we resolved as a people to produce? What have we reserved as the people to produce, Honorable? Is that is the budget the president presented proposing, assuming, or also thinking about the fact that we need to, say for example, I can mention 5 areas or 5 things that Nigeria has in abundance that we can produce and export to the rest of the world. Cassava, for example, ethanol can be gotten out of it. We can consume Gary in large quantity, and I saw Gary the other day in London. I mean, the issue of our oil, gas on the ground, we understand that there's an agreement with Germany. There are so many rubber, cocoa, palm oil. These are things that we have on the ground. How much of these are we able to internalize? Is this budget thinking about it? Are we applying some investment in local production? I'm not talking about foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment that you gain today will not materialize until after a year or more. But immediately, what is the local production looking like in the Tinubu's proposition?
I told you earlier on that one of the focus of this budget is job creation and poverty reduction. The ways of going about this is to increase our capacity to be able to produce. That's job creation itself. Reducing poverty. It is why we empower the youth that poverty will be reduced. Social development is why we assist, for example, like in education, student loan, that many people will be able to go to school, study the exact course they have in mind, and be able to develop on their own. These are already embedded in the budget. These were the first things I mentioned earlier on, that this is the main focus of this government.
So apologies, Honorable. You're quite mixing up my point. The other question I asked, you mixed up with FDI. This time around, you are meeting with the welfare tendency of this government. I'm talking about local production, Honorable. I'm not talking about human capital development, which are the areas you're touching on. I'm saying is, for example, if our refineries are working, if this government is thinking that we will increase or we will partner with Dangote and make sure that we are self-sufficient in refining oil on the ground in Nigeria, is Port Harcourt going to be working? Is Warri Refinery going to work? These are local production. In terms of rubber, in terms of cocoa, in terms of maize, in terms of rice, I'm talking about local-based production, not welfare, not handouts. That's not what I'm talking about, Honorable.
You see, one of the biggest way of developing an economy is not necessarily the giant one that we are trying to produce. For example, cluster farming is one of the things this government is planning. Everybody has one benefit they have in terms of production in their community. For example, in the State, we have yam, we have cassava. And government is thinking of establishing cluster farming to grow these items within the environment where it is produced. And that is one of the ways government is thinking of reducing poverty. This is exactly what I'm talking about here. This is one of the ways government is thinking of creating jobs. I want to help you the other time because we are talking about dollar. And I said, government is already thinking of bringing this hard currency to the country in a way to show up and increase the value of Naira.
All right. Honorable, quickly, let me have 2-tier questions, and I have just about 60 seconds. That's what my guys are telling me from the control room now, because we need to switch to another issue. But quickly, I'd like to ask you the expected effect of this budget. In 30 seconds, can you do that, sir?
Well, like I said earlier on, it is expected that at the end of the implementation of this budget, the economy of this country will improve for the better. I am an optimist, but I won't tell you that all our problems will be solved within this financial year.
Revenue, for example, Honorable, apologies. Revenue, for example, is one way that, one thing, aspect of this budget that a lot of people think, where are we going to get that money from? Where we perform, below par, based on the expectation, the assumption in the last budget on revenue generation. Now, in fact, the revenue generation and assumption in this budget is way higher. The president is even assuming in this budget that our growth rate will be higher than what even IMF. IMF downgraded us. Where is this optimism coming from?
The optimism is coming from the first move of Mr. President. You know, the first thing Mr. President did was to bring experts in tax matters to see how we can improve in our tax. You saw it was publicized everywhere. The intention of Mr. President is to tap into all the areas where we have not been able to tap into. Reduce tax from where it is to be reduced and increase where it is to be increased in such a way that the low earners will pay less and those who earn more will pay more. And that's the essence of the whole thing. The president is highly, you know, he's an accountant himself. He has worked in this area. He definitely understands what it means to harmonize our tax use and be able to achieve the best of taxation.
Honorable,
for example,
I'm due to close this conversation, please. Apologies. One thing that also comes to mind is the manner in which the president wanted, he was pleading with them that they should expedite action on this. And I'm wondering how this can happen within the next few days. Lawmakers will go on recess. You've been in the National Assembly. In 30 seconds, if you can tell us,
yes,
how soon can this budget, you think, can be passed? Because there are a few loopholes that they are already finding in the budget.
From my interaction with members immediately after the budget was submitted, I can see commitment from members and their readiness to work. Even if possible, petition their break to be able to achieve this. And this you see in what happened today. The budget was laid for the first time, first reading, and it was passed to the second reading, and it was transferred straight for committee stage. And immediately, you know, the committee will go into different committees to examine the budget for each of the agencies and ministries. This, in some climate, may take like a week, 2 weeks, but this they are able to do in a day. And from my interaction again, most of the committees will be ready to work even during the weekend to be able to achieve the goal of Mr. President. Because the truth about the matter is that all hands must be on deck to ensure that we get this thing done.
Honorable Kunle Ibrahim Olarewaju, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on National Assembly Matters, House of Reps, and a former member of the House of Representatives in the 9th Assembly. Thank you so much indeed, Honorable, for your time tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Let's tell you what happened today in Ondo State, where Deputy Governor Mr. Lucky Aiyedatiwa presided over the Ondo State Executive Council meeting in the absence of Governor Rotimi Akeredolu. The Deputy Governor presided over that meeting in Akure, and the ESCO's meeting occurred after months of political wrangling between the Deputy Governor and Governor Rotimi Akeredolu's loyalists. The crisis was occasioned by the absence of the governor, who had been out of the state for months due to ill health. He returned to the country, and he's being in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. But the president, Bola Tinubu, has since intervened in all of this matter. Tonight, let's get to see what exactly is going on. There seems to be a lot of undercurrent, not only in Ondo State, in Rivers State. APC seems to be having a lot of issues internally for it to resolve. But Ondo State is the latest one. I have joining me tonight, National Publicity Secretary of the APC, Mr. Felix Omoka. Thank you so much, Mr. Omoka, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Shel.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It took the president intervention to resolve the matter in Ondo State.
Yes. The president is the leader of the All Progressives Congress. He's the president of the Federal Republic. So when there are issues, tensions, anywhere in the party, or for that matter, anywhere in the government of the country, he has an interest, a legitimate interest to listen, to give counsel where necessary. That's exactly what is done in Ondo State. And I think that the president has showed a lot of leadership, not just of the party, but of the country. Because, you know, when a constituent state is experiencing some sort of, you know, if you will, some standoff between its members in government, the president was, I think, right in intervening. I mean, I think we've seen previous presidents who were a bit apathetic, you know, to this sort of situation. But this president characteristically, I think, got involved. And just the other day, you also saw how some governors from the opposition even extended some commendation to him for the way he also intervened in the case of Rivers, where again there was tension between some of the key stakeholders in that state. So our president is up and running. He's, I think, being very vigilant and conscious of his responsibility.
There are those who will say, oh, there is a political jitter in your party. That's why this running around is happening, because elections are coming and the party is not in the right shape. There's bickering between the deputy and the governor. But as the president able to determine the course of action in the party in Ondo State?
Yes, I mean, you're sure, you acknowledged that the deputy governor presided over the state council today, which wasn't the case. Again, carrying out some of the advice that they got from the president.
The House of Assembly retrieving or withdrawing the case from the Court of Appeal.
Absolutely. I mean, this is part of, the effort to make the peace and to keep the peace.
Did the president say that Adedatua can get a ticket of the party? Is that part of the deal?
I can't confirm any of that. And that's not necessary at this point. What is there is that the stakeholders in Ondo, realizing that the conflict is not in the best interest of the state, following the president's advice, are rethinking their positions and each yielding ground, each adjusting a little in order to win the peace. And I think the peace is what the president is interested in at this point. It's not so much about any kind of political calculation. I think it's more about ensuring that the state is able to function and to function well.
Yeah, let me take a breather, Mr. Moka, and we'll come back. There's so much more to talk about.
Sure,
Rivers
absolutely.
is there.
Correct.
In fact, your own state, Delta, is also part of
there, absolutely.
Kano is there. Kano
Correct.
is burning, literally, politically. And so we'll find out what exactly is going on. Is the APC also burning internally? Ondo State is also part of this issue. The APC, the ruling party, needs to get his act together. We'll talk more after this break, everyone. Tell me. Everyone for staying with us on the program. So let us get a sense of what is going on in Ondo State. Mr. Felix Moka has been speaking with us on the situation in the party. And so I was asking you how all of these is happening and what is the fate of Mr. Adedatua, because at the heart of all of this is who becomes the flag bearer of the APC in Ondo State's governorship race. That was the crux of the matter.
Correct.
And the fear was that Mr. Adedatua is having a stronger hold in the absence of the governor. Has that been resolved at all? If that's not resolved, the problem has not gone.
The background to this was the unfortunate ill health of the Governor Keredolu. And there's a reason in our constitutional democracy why you have a governor, you have a deputy. For reasons, like this. So, but those who are looking at, calculations for the next election and who may win, the candidacy of the party, I think are just accelerating their own thinking. We're not there yet. Right now, there's a state that needs to be administered by the governor, but unfortunately, the governor is not, feeling very well. That gap that has been created has to be filled. Mostly by the deputy governor. But of course, unfortunately, that created a lot of tension in the state, which the president has just intervened to try to mediate and resolve. So, we are concerned first and foremost with running the state of Ondo and ensuring that things don't fall apart. But it's less for us about who emerges flag bearer for the next election. I mean, that, of course, is part of the undercurrent in some of the tensions we're seeing. But that's not our priority at this point.
What about Kano? Literally, I mean, you are a lawyer. You saw what happened. The court says it was a clerical error. I mean, but of course, you understand the meaning of clerical error. And those who say that doesn't look like a clerical error. He's put a big question mark on the integrity of that judgment, and it's causing a lot of trouble. And there are those in the opposition who are accusing your party of what's the word now that was used, that you have taken over the judiciary. Your party is taking over the judiciary.
You know, Shehu, I'm sure you know, even as you ask this question, I'm sure you know that there's really no basis for that charge against the APC. There was an election in Kano. Results were called. The NMPP was declared winner of that election. The APC went to court, and the courts have resolved in favor of the APC. Now, which of that process is illegitimate or is illegal? The election itself was completely legal and legitimate. The legal challenge that the APC brought against the outcome of that election is also legal and legitimate. The courts are legitimate creation of our constitution. You cannot have our democracy without the courts. So, you know, when courts give a verdict that are against you, this tendency on the part of the opposition, you know, whether it's the PDP or the Labour Party, and now the NMPP in Kano, is unnecessary. It's irresponsible, quite frankly, because, you know, we, the ruling party, we have also suffered, you know, from judicial strike, like we experienced in Ondo State. We were in government. We didn't, you know, intimidate or bamboozle any judges in the case of Oshu to give us judgment.
Is it why you're battling?
We didn't.
Brutally this time around?
No. Nobody's battling brutally. The people went to court, which they have a right to do. You know, in Bayelsa, APC won an election in 2019, and a day before the swearing in, the courts ruled that, you know, the elected governor could not take power because of some legal, you know, complications. We didn't bring down, you know, the country, and we didn't ask for the courts to be dismantled. You know, this idea that, you know, every time a verdict is against you, therefore somebody, the ruling party or somebody who is in power is, you know, manipulating the courts. You know, we can't have that. That's not something that is consistent with preserving our democratic culture. You know, we can have that because, you know, if you follow that model, then we should abolish the courts. But who will move the motion to abolish the courts? And if you abolish the courts, what alternative will you have for dispute resolution? So I think that, you know, people need to just, you know, calm down. Yes, I know when they make those accusations, there's nothing legal about it. What happened with the CTC in Kano, as the court itself has explained, was a clerical error. And this happened, I'm a lawyer. This is my 35 years at the bar. I have seen that. I've read judgments where, you know, this was said and, you know, somebody just wrote the wrong thing.
What would you describe as a clerical error?
A clerical error is anything that is contained in the judgment, especially something that is so almost, you know, insignificant in terms of the body.
If I wanted to say moka and I say moku, that could be a clerical error.
That's a clerical error.
But when you have a whole paragraph that is modeled,
no, Shemo, it wasn't. Look,
do you have the document? Maybe I can show you.
No, I have the document. Shemo, see, I've read the document.
67th page.
Yes.
The first, second, third paragraphs are totally different.
Okay.
The sentences are totally
Shemo, you just said 67 pages of a judgment.
Page, yeah.
As
a lawyer, you know that the last page is very fundamental. That is a verdict of the court.
No, Shemo.
That is the order of court. That is where the stamp of court is.
No, that is not the way it works. A judgment is a document. You don't read judgments in bits and pieces. You don't take one paragraph and read it in isolation of the other paragraphs. You don't take, you know, legal issues, and especially appellate issues, even issues at the High Court, are resolved based on, you know, grounds that are framed for determinations. They're called issues for determination, okay? Now, when you have 3 or 4 issues for determination, and a court that is, you know, adjudicating resolves the first issue in favor of a particular party, resolves the second issue in favor of that same party, and resolves all the issues in favor of the same party, you cannot have a conclusion that contradicts the resolution of those issues. That is what you have in Kano. And so, you know, somebody means to say the respondents, and it says, you know, the appellant. That is something that happens all the time. Because, you know, when you type in, even the person who is typing that document, sometimes is jaded. You see the same, you know, word, respondent, maybe 1,000,000 times in a document. Sometimes you are typing because of speed and make mistakes. But what matters here is that the court itself has come out to say, this was the judgment we read in open court, and this error we have corrected to keep it in line with the judgment that was read in open court.
It's this Kano situation, not indicting, not making a mess of your party.
No, it's not.
In the eye of the public.
No, but what has that
the right thinking mind of the public.
Come on. What has our party got to do with it? We are not the judge. We are not the, the clerks and the registrars.
You heard what the opposition is saying.
They can say what they want to say. That is, is their right. They have a fundamental right to free expression. They can say what they want, but that does not in any way cut the fact that the APC is not, the clerk of court. It's not the registrar of court. We're not the judges. We're not. So, you can't, attribute or ascribe, any errors emanating from the, registrar of the court to our party. We're only a party just like them.
You are the party in power, and if there is an allegation that your party has hijacked the judiciary...
Then we should do what? No, tell me exactly what you expect us to do.
What should we do? That your party can wash its
hands clean? You go to... No, there's nothing to wash. You go to the higher court. In this case, luckily, they still have the Supreme Court to approach.
They say you have taken it over.
By what evidence? Look, is it okay for me to just say somebody has taken over the Supreme Court without evidence?
So do we have any respect?
Do we have any respect for? Of course, they completely lost in wandering. They lost in translation. That's what's going on. They lost in the court, and now they can't handle it. They need to actually, take a deep breath and handle it like mature people. Right now, they're acting like children. They're not acting properly.
Just remember, I want you to listen to the Ondo State PDP governorship candidate, Mr. Ladi Adebutu. He's been reacting to the appeal court judgment in Ondo State. Take a listen to him. This is the PDP governorship candidate in Ondo State.
We contested against the umpire. We didn't only contest against the umpire, we contested against people with limited thinking of sense of fairness, equity, and democracy that brought the powers of government to bear. You were molested, you were harassed, but you stood your ground and you voted. Despite that, an interested party was vested by the INEC to print electoral materials. We voted and we won with over 50,000 votes. Interestingly, we have had to fight an uphill battle to keep that mandate. It came as a joke when I was informed there were various clowning occasions where people said I had absconded because I had criminal charges.
That's Mr. Ladi Adebutu reacting to the judgment of the appeal court. I mean, he's definitely miffed by the outcome, and he feels that it is being skewed in that. That's one of the reactions that you're getting, and particularly you look at Kano State, for example, and the agitation on the street, the bonfires, and all of that. How can your party handle the outcome of some of these issues?
There's nothing to handle, quite frankly. There's nothing to handle. I mean, we're talking about the outcome of cases in court. How do you handle the outcome of cases except to go back and prepare for, the next challenge?
For those who think that it doesn't matter again for you to win an election at the polling units, now you have to wait to go and win in the court for an election where there is a 500,000 votes as against your party that had about 400,000. And now it's going to be scuttled, and those are some of the interpretation of the opposition.
No, is that, look, let's be realistic here. Let's go beyond some of these wild allegations that the opposition makes. Do you know a country where the courts or the judicial system, where the authority is ousted with respect to electoral controversies? Is there such a country? If there is, maybe we need to go and copy their model. There's no such country. Look, I hate to give any example that is, somewhere in the West. But, sometimes you do that because that's where we have borrowed this model of democracy that we practice. In those countries where they come teach us and try to lecture and moralize about, democracy, they themselves are they dig deep in legal challenge of electoral outcomes. And when decisions are made, controversies never end.
When there's a rampant accusation of the compromise of judiciary, of judges.
By what evidence? You don't just make... You see, these are serious issues.
ICPC, did you see the ICPC report that was released last year?
The ICPC report, it was a report. It was a report.
Look, of an indictment of the deep of corruption in the judiciary.
You know, look, the ICPC is an investigative agency of federal government. If indeed they found that scale of corruption in the judiciary, you know what, I would expect to see a list in the appendix attached of those judges who were suspected or alleged to have, you know, compromised themselves. Attach it. Are judges beyond, you know, above the law? They're not above the law.
But what would your party do? I mean, are you running a government, a country where the judiciary is being seen? You see what Dino said? Dino said, I don't want to contest this in
because Dino did not even contest the election itself. Dino did not. You are. This is Channels Television. You are the ultimate, you know, TV station in the country. Show me a tape where Dino was seen casting his vote during the election. He knows that if he goes to court, the first thing he's going to do as a star witness is to say, you know, I voted. He can't even testify on oath that he voted. So Dino's case is absolutely irrelevant to this conversation. So if he chooses not to go to court, it's because he has nothing to show to the judges in court. Not because, you know, he feels that the APC has in some way taken over the courts.
Mr. Philip, thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
But that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye-bye.